Beamy. Greater than 20. College in Chicago. Last semester. Dorm full of chaos. Boxes. Goodbyes hanging in the air. I thought it would just be noise and packing. No big emotional scene. Liam, my roommate, 21, always the fixer, carried my junk like it weighed nothing. He'd been the guy who fixed lamps, hauled boxes, listened to me rant at 3 a.m. That night, while we folded clothes, I teased, "Bet you're glad to ditch my mess." He smiled, but not with his eyes. "Honestly, I can't imagine this place without you." The words hit different, not just casual, not just roommates joking before a move. 2 years together, and this was the first time he said something that raw. I laughed weakly, tried to hide the burn in my chest, heart pounding like crazy. Pretended to keep packing, stuffing books into boxes, acting like nothing happened. But inside, everything tilted, like friendship suddenly cracked open into something heavier. The next morning I woke up still hearing his voice. "Can't imagine without you." Dragged myself to class, but my mind stayed stuck in that dorm room. Liam acted normal, grabbing coffee, tossing me my notes, pretending nothing shifted. I wondered if I imagined it. Maybe read too much into a tired joke. But his eyes last night weren't joking. They carried something heavier than he wanted to say. I spent the day replaying every little moment, every laugh, every look, searching for clues. Did he mean it? Was it a slip? Or was it a confession hidden in plain sight? Friends chatted about finals, summer plans, but I barely heard a word they said. Every hallway felt different, every text from him heavier, like it carried hidden weight. By evening, I found myself back in the dorm early, waiting for him to show. And when he walked in, smiling casually, I swear my whole chest tightened again. Because nothing was casual anymore, no matter how hard I tried to pretend it was. That night we sat on the floor between boxes, plastic cups filled with cheap beer. Room smelled like cardboard and dust, but the silence between us felt heavier. Liam pulled out a small envelope, slid it across the floor toward me quietly. "It's yours," he said, eyes avoiding mine, hands fidgeting with the edge of his cup. I opened it and froze. Cash, folded neatly, more than I'd ever expect from him. "This is for your bus or plane ticket if you get into New York." My throat tightened. "Liam, why would you?" But he cut me off quickly. "Because your dreams matter more to me than anything else right now." Second peak slammed in, realization flooding. I never saw how much he carried for me. I stared at him, shocked, pride and guilt colliding, wondering how long he'd hidden this. He just smiled weakly, like he'd finally admitted something but wasn't asking for praise. And I knew then, this was never just about being roommates anymore. All week I wrestled with the envelope, stuffing it into my drawer, staring at it. Every time Liam walked in, casual grin on his face, I felt the weight double. I wanted to thank him, to say I knew, to admit what I felt too. But fear of wrecking everything chained me. Friendship, safety, the life we'd built in that room. Friends joked about us being inseparable, asking what we'd do apart, voices playful but sharp. I laughed it off, but inside the truth already clawed at my chest restlessly. Each night we packed more, walls bare, shelves empty, silence thicker with every box gone. Liam kept humming under his breath, calm as always, but his eyes said otherwise. I caught myself staring at his hands, steady, the same hands that quietly built my future. The closer we got to the move-out date, the louder the unspoken questions grew. And I knew it was only a matter of time before everything cracked open. Whether I wanted it to or not, that night was coming fast. Midnight crept in, boxes stacked high, the room echoing with emptiness more than noise. I sat cross-legged on the floor, sipping beer, pretending to scroll through my phone. Liam leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, watching me in silence too long. Finally he spoke, voice low. "Hannah, what happens when we're not here anymore?" I froze. Words stuck, because I didn't know how to answer that question honestly. He sighed, shook his head, smiled faintly. "Forget it. Just me being sentimental." But I knew it wasn't nothing. His tone cracked in a way I'd never heard. I thought of the envelope, the money, his eyes when he said, "Your dreams." First peak replayed in my head, second slammed again, my chest too tight to breathe. I wanted to reach across the floor, grab his hand, tell him not to stop. Instead, I stayed frozen, pretending my beer was fascinating, hiding behind the fizz. And in that moment, silence said more than either of us dared to speak. Next day I avoided him, burying myself in library books, headphones blasting too loud. But even then, I couldn't stop replaying his voice, softer than any lecture around me. Walking back through campus, spring air heavy, couples everywhere, I felt like a ghost. Liam texted, "Dinner?" Just one word, simple, but it carried weight like a question mark. I typed, "Busy," then erased it, typed, "Sure," my fingers shaking, then sent it. We ate takeout on the dorm floor again, boxes our table, chopsticks clumsy in our hands. He cracked jokes about fortune cookies, his laugh easy, but his eyes stayed heavy. I laughed too, forcing it, but every sound felt like deflection, hiding the real thing. When we finished, he gathered the trash, casual, like nothing simmered underneath the surface. But when he handed me my drink, his fingers brushed mine, lingering longer than usual. I didn't pull back, didn't laugh, didn't cover it with sarcasm, just let it happen. And that tiny touch felt bigger than any words either of us managed. By evening the room was nearly bare, posters gone, shelves empty, walls echoing too loud. Liam sat on his bed, tossing a baseball in the air, catching it one-handed. I watched him, heart racing, wondering if this was the last night together. "Feels weird, huh?" he said, eyes on the ceiling, not on me. "Yeah," I whispered, voice small, like it's not really ours anymore. He caught the ball, looked at me, serious. "It's not the room I'll miss." My chest tightened, heat rushing, because his eyes didn't waver when he said it. I wanted to joke, to deflect, but the words died before leaving my mouth. Silence stretched, heavy, the kind that makes your hands shake without reason. I fiddled with my bracelet, hiding my nerves, wishing I had the courage to answer. Liam didn't push, just leaned back, letting the moment hang unbroken between us. And I knew we were both teetering on an edge neither of us named. Later that night, lights off, only glow from the street lamps spilling through blinds. We sat on the floor again, knees close, cheap beer warming in plastic cups. His hand brushed mine, just once, lingering like a question he was too scared to ask. I didn't pull away, didn't laugh it off, just let it stay there. "Hannah," he whispered finally, voice cracked like he'd rehearsed it all day. "What do you feel?" My throat closed, words choking, fear slamming harder than any final exam ever could. I stared at him in the dim light, saw how serious his eyes were. For a second I thought I'd lean in, close the gap, finally give an answer. Instead, I froze, let my hand stay with his, heart pounding louder than trains outside. We didn't speak after that, just sat in the dark, silence louder than confession. And every second, I wondered if I'd regret not moving first, or if the silence itself was its own kind of fragile promise. The next morning sunlight spilled across half-packed boxes, dust floating in golden streaks of light. Liam was already up, folding his last stack of clothes, jaw clenched tight in silence. I sat on my bed, pretending to scroll my phone, nerves buzzing like electricity. Every click of tape on cardboard felt like a countdown to something unspoken. "So this is it," he said finally, eyes on the box, not me. "Yeah," I answered, too quickly, trying to sound casual, but my voice cracked anyway. He chuckled softly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Guess we'll survive, right?" I forced a laugh, nodding, wishing I could say something bigger, truer than that. He looked at me then, eyes serious, like he was memorizing the moment. I swallowed hard, heart pounding, wondering if I should break the silence before it broke me. But the words stayed locked inside, and once again I let the moment slip away. And all day, guilt gnawed at me, louder than the sound of boxes moving. That evening we ordered pizza, ate cross-legged on the bare floor, grease staining napkins. Liam pulled out his guitar, strumming softly, filling the empty room with familiar chords. He started humming, voice low, almost a whisper. "Guess this is our last night here." I leaned back, eyes closed, letting the music wash over nerves I couldn't control. Every note carried weight, like a goodbye he wasn't ready to say yet. "Play something happier," I joked weakly, trying to hide the lump in my throat. He grinned faintly, strummed brighter, but his eyes stayed fixed on me, not the strings. The way he looked made my chest ache, like I was already losing something. I wanted to grab the guitar, set it aside, tell him everything. Instead I stayed still, soaking up the music, letting silence answer again. When the last chord faded, the room felt heavier, like it knew what was unsaid. And I realized, this wasn't just a dorm anymore. It was the edge of everything. Later that night, the power flickered, leaving the room lit only by street lamp shadows. Liam sat beside me on the floor, close enough I could feel his warmth. He didn't speak for a while, just tapped his fingers nervously against his knee. Finally, he whispered, "If this is our last night, I need to know something." My stomach twisted, heart slamming, every nerve screaming what he was about to ask. "Do you ever feel like we're more than just roommates?" His voice cracked slightly. I froze, eyes wide, every possible answer rushing through my head at once. Silence stretched, long enough to feel unbearable, long enough to taste regret forming. I could have leaned in, closed the gap, erased 2 years of hesitation in one breath. Instead, I let my hand rest against his, trembling, not pulling away. His eyes softened at the touch, like even that was enough for now. And in that fragile quiet, I felt the world tilt, uncertain but real. We stayed like that, shoulder to shoulder, hands brushing lightly in the dim light. Neither of us dared to speak again, afraid words might shatter the fragile moment. Outside, the city buzzed, cars honking, sirens wailing, life moving on without us. Inside, time slowed, the air thick, every heartbeat louder than the hum of lights. I thought of every late night we shared, every small kindness he gave without asking. Suddenly, all those moments lined up like puzzle pieces pointing to this night. My lips parted, ready to say something, anything, but the words caught again. Liam glanced at me, eyes searching, as if begging for confirmation without sound. I held his gaze, breath shallow, and let the silence answer again in my place. We sat until the first light of dawn crept over Lake Michigan outside the window. Neither of us moved, neither of us confessed, but nothing about us stayed the same. And I wondered if silence was our promise, or the biggest mistake I'd ever make. Morning light spilled across the empty walls, boxes stacked high, our room no longer ours. Liam stretched, rubbing his neck, eyes tired but soft as he looked at me. "Crazy, huh? 2 years gone just like that," he said, voice caught between casual and heavy. I nodded, forcing a smile, heart pounding from everything unspoken still sitting between us. We carried boxes to the hall, footsteps echoing, each step feeling like one closer to goodbye. Neighbors laughed, slammed doors, hauled luggage, but all I heard was the silence between us. When we returned for the last load, the room was bare, nothing left but echoes. Liam set his box down, leaned against the wall, studying me like memorizing details. I dropped my gaze, heat in my chest, afraid I'd cave if I met his eyes. "Guess this is it," he said softly, words heavy, final, like a closing door. I swallowed hard, fingers tightening around my keys, wanting to speak, but failing again. And in that moment, silence screamed louder than anything I could have said aloud. Later that afternoon, we stood outside. Moving trucks lined the curb, summer air thick. Liam handed me my last bag, his fingers brushing mine longer than needed. "Take care of yourself, Hannah," he murmured, smile small, eyes brighter than the sun overhead. I nodded, throat tight, barely whispering. "You too," wishing the words could mean more. Friends called out, horns honked, life rushing, but between us time stretched painfully slow. He stepped back, hands shoved in pockets, like holding himself from saying something reckless. I wanted to close the distance, to grab his shirt, to finally answer. Instead I froze, rooted to the sidewalk, heart screaming louder than the city around us. We hugged quickly, too quick, both holding tighter than friends usually do. When we pulled apart, his eyes lingered, asking a question I still didn't answer. I turned away, suitcase rolling, wondering if I'd just left the best thing unfinished. And as I walked, I knew silence might haunt me longer than goodbye ever could. That night in my new apartment, boxes stacked again, but the silence felt heavier. I kept checking my phone, screen lighting up with nothing, no text from Liam. I typed out messages, made it safe, thanks for everything, but deleted them every time, because none of them captured the weight of what I wanted to say. I sat by the window, city lights glowing, wondering if he felt the same ache. His hand brushing mine, his voice cracking in the dark, it all replayed endlessly. I knew I should have kissed him, should have risked it, but fear still held me. Was silence safety, or was it cowardice disguised as comfort? I couldn't tell anymore. Outside, Laughter from other apartments carried, but my room stayed quiet, too quiet. I pressed my forehead to the glass, whispering his name like it might reach him. And in that moment, I realized the dorm wasn't the only thing I'd left behind. I'd left part of myself there too, sitting on that floor in the half-light. Weeks later, life moved forward. Classes, new faces, routines settling. But the weight never lifted. Every time I saw Lake Michigan at sunrise, I thought of that dorm window. Every empty room reminded me of him, of what we almost had but didn't take. Friends asked if I missed dorm life, and I laughed, saying only the late-night chaos. But inside I thought, no, I miss him, his voice, his presence filling the silence. I scrolled old photos, pizza boxes, guitars, blurry smiles, proof of what we once were. Each picture burned with questions I never answered, choices I never made. Maybe it wasn't an ending, maybe just a pause, but it still haunted me. One day I'll tell him. One day I'll break the silence we both built. Until then, the question lingers. Was that night our almost love, or just a goodbye? If you were me, would you risk friendship for truth, or keep the silence forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.